We all want to understand our kids to see what signals their future potential. But what if I told you the usual signs we look for, like being an early reader or super fast in math, are, well, actually kind of misleading? Today, we're going to unpack the real indicators of a child's intelligence and get out of the smartness trap for good.
So let's start with the big question. What does it actually mean for a child to be smart? Is it about getting things right on the first try? Is it about speed? I think we all have this picture in our heads of a smart kid, but it turns out that picture is often pretty out of focus.
Okay, so first, we have to talk about something called this smartness trap. This is all about the common ideas we have about intelligence that can actually stop us from seeing a child's true potential. This chart just breaks it down so perfectly. You see a kid who starts reading super early, and you think, wow, genius. But really, it often just shows they grew up in a home filled with books and conversation. And that kid who's a math whiz, it could just mean they've had a ton of practice. Even being ahead of the curve can be more about their personality or just their unique developmental timeline, not some sign that they're destined for greatness.
And here's the bottom line. Based on a ton of research, being an early bloomer doesn't really predict what's going to happen down the road. Those early advantages, they usually even out by the time kids are teenagers. In fact, a lot of really brilliant adults were just totally average as kids. Those early signs just aren't as reliable as we think.
So, if being early or fast isn't the whole story, what should we be looking for? Well, this brings us to a much better way of looking at things, a new toolkit with 5 key signs of potential that go way deeper than just performance.
So, what's the very first sign we should be on the lookout for? It's something that has way more to do with understanding than just remembering things.
First up is comprehension. And I don't mean just being able to repeat a definition from a textbook. I'm talking about real understanding. Can they take a new idea and explain it back to you, but in their own words? Can they still talk about it a week later? That's the huge difference between deep learning and just memorizing something for a little while.
And it really all comes down to this. Understanding something deeply is so much more valuable than just memorizing it quickly. The goal isn't for our kids to be like a computer hard drive that just stores information, right? It's for them to be a mind that can actually make sense of it all. It's about depth, not speed.
All right, on to the second indicator. Now, this one is so important, but we often forget about it. It's not about what a child knows, it's about what they can do with what they know.
We're talking about transferability. Can they take something they learned in one place and use it somewhere totally different? Like, can they use the math they learned on a worksheet to figure out how much 2 toys will cost at the store? That's the moment when learning becomes a real-life superpower.
That's it, exactly. Real intelligence is portable. It's about being able to pack up what you've learned and bring it with you to solve a brand new problem. That shows a mind that's truly flexible.
Okay, so our third sign isn't about what a kid already has in their brain, but what pushes them to want to learn even more.
This one is all about the depth of their curiosity. It's not the kid who asks a million random questions about everything. It's the kid who gets totally hooked on one thing. Dinosaurs, space, how cars work, whatever, and just keeps digging and digging all on their own because they have to know more.
And this is just such a cool idea. Developing a really deep, passionate interest in one thing can be a way more powerful engine for learning over a lifetime than just knowing a little bit about a bunch of different stuff.
All right, number 4. Now, this one might be the most revealing sign of them all. It's not about how a kid does when things are easy. It's about what they do when they hit a wall.
We're looking at the reaction to difficulty. When they fail at something, what happens? Do they get frustrated and just say, I can't do it? Or do they pause, maybe try a different way, and see the problem as something they just haven't figured out yet? That one little difference tells you everything about their mindset.
And this is why it's so important. Their skill level right now is just a snapshot in time, but how they deal with failure, that tells you about their potential ceiling. It's really a measure of their resilience and their belief in their own ability to grow.
And that brings us to number 5, our final indicator. This one is all about the why. Why is a child doing what they're doing?
We're talking about intrinsic motivation. Is a kid doing something because they're genuinely lost in it, or are they doing it to get praise or to avoid getting in trouble? You can see it when a kid is so focused on building with Legos or drawing a picture that they completely forget you're even in the room. They're not doing it for a reward, the activity is the reward.
And this is the real payoff. That kind of deep internal drive is basically the soil where long-term creativity grows. It's not about making other people happy. It's about exploring a whole world of ideas inside their own head.
But here's the thing.
None of these 5 signs just appear out of nowhere. There's this huge, often overlooked factor that really decides whether a child can even show these traits to begin with, and that's their environment.
Just think about this for a second. Take the exact same kid with the exact same brain in an environment where they feel safe, supported, and understood. They seem smart, creative, and engaged. But you put that same child in a high-pressure, judgmental environment, and suddenly they might seem slow, anxious, and they just don't perform as well.
And the reason for this is literally in their brain. It's not a difference in their ability. It's a difference in the state of their nervous system. A brain that feels safe is ready to learn, explore, and be creative. A brain that feels stressed is just trying to survive. You physically can't access your best thinking when you're in that fight or flight mode.
So, what does this all mean? It means we need to make a really big shift in how we think. It's about moving away from constantly judging and measuring a child and moving toward creating the kind of world they need to really thrive.
So that brings up a good question. What about IQ tests? Well, the consensus is that they're best used as a very specific tool, like a screening for clear developmental concerns with language or attention. They're absolutely not meant to be a label like smart or not smart. And honestly, for kids under 6, they don't really predict much anyway.
So, maybe we can stop asking that anxious question, is my child smart, and start asking a much more powerful and useful one. How can I create the conditions for them to shine? Because making that one little shift in how we see them, well, that changes everything.